The final human expedition to a dying star uncovers a secret that could save the universe. The gravity drive stuttered, and Commander Eliza Chen fought to keep her expression neutral as alarms screamed across the bridge. Outside the viewports of the UNSS Prometheus, the fabric of space-time rippled like oil on water. Beautiful, if you could ignore that it meant the ship was one malfunction away from being torn apart. Structural integrity at 63%, announced Arya, the ship's AI. Her voice remained calm, almost maternal, despite delivering what might be their death sentence. Commander, we cannot maintain our course toward VY Canis Majoris at current acceleration. Eliza's fingers danced across the control panel, buying precious seconds. Reduce acceleration by 30%. Divert emergency power to the forward shields. The Conclave representatives are requesting to speak with you, Arya added. They seem distressed. Of course they are, Eliza thought. The aliens had been against this mission from the beginning. She glanced at the tactical display, where 3 sleek Conclave observer vessels maintained perfect formation around the human ship. Not escorts, but watchdogs. Tell them I'm busy keeping us alive, she said. They can wait. The ship's chief engineer, Dr. Sato, appeared beside her, his normally immaculate uniform stained with coolant fluid. Commander, the core is holding, but the gravitational stresses are worse than we calculated. The star's degradation is accelerating. On the main display, VY Canis Majoris loomed. A hypergiant star in its death throes, swollen to a monstrous size that defied human comprehension. Once among the largest stars in the known galaxy, it was now an unstable, giant hemorrhaging mass at an alarming rate. Strange energy patterns rippled across its surface, patterns that had drawn the attention of both human scientists and the Conclave leadership. How long until we reach the safe observation zone? Eliza asked. 3 hours at reduced speed, Dr. Sato replied, wiping sweat from his brow. Assuming the star doesn't decide to hiccup again before then. Eliza nodded and turned to her communications officer. Patch the Conclave through. Visual only on our end. The screen flickered, revealing the imposing figure of Archon, the senior representative of the Galactic Conclave assigned to oversee, to control, Eliza mentally corrected, the mission. The Archon's crystalline exoskeleton gleamed under the lights of their vessel, faceted eyes refracting into countless smaller eyes that all seemed to focus accusingly on her. Commander Chen. The Archon's voice resonated with the particular harmonic overtones characteristic of the Vex species. Your vessel is approaching structural failure parameters. The Conclave protocols are clear regarding dangerous proximity to Class Omega astral phenomena. You will abort this approach vector immediately. Eliza straightened her shoulders. Archon, with all due respect, we've invested too much to turn back now. The gravitational anomalies we've detected around VY Canis Majoris exist nowhere else in the charted galaxy. This may be our only chance to study them before the star transitions to its next phase. Your species' obsession with this particular stellar body is perplexing, another voice interjected. Overseer Kim of the Tauran hegemony moved into view, his bovine features arranged in what humans had learned to recognize as contempt. You lack the technological sophistication to properly analyze what you will encounter. The data should be collected by a Conclave scientific delegation, not a provisional member species. The familiar anger flared in Eliza's chest. 70 years since first contact, 30 years since humans had developed their own functioning gravity drive based on reverse-engineered Conclave technology, and still, they were treated as barely evolved primates who had stumbled accidentally into the galactic community. Our instruments are specifically calibrated for the unique radiation signature this star emits, Eliza countered. And need I remind you, Overseer, that the stellar decay protocol was developed by human astrophysicists? Dr. Okonkwo's work on hypergiant instability is now standard conclave teaching. A fortunate insight from an otherwise unremarkable species, Tauran dismissed. One does not praise a vermin for finding an occasional grain of truth among the refuse. Before Eliza could respond with something that would definitely violate diplomatic protocols, the third conclave representative spoke. Ambassador LYR of the Meridic Cooperative, the only conclave species that had consistently advocated for human inclusion in galactic affairs, raised a slender, multi-jointed appendage. Commander Chen's assertions have merit, colleagues. LYR's voice was melodic, almost hypnotic. Humanity's unusual approach to astrophysics has yielded several paradigm shifts in recent decades. Their pattern recognition capabilities remain unmatched by our predictive algorithms. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Eliza grabbed the edge of her console to stay upright. "We are experiencing a class 3 gravitational wave," Arya announced. "Recalibrating shields. All personnel secure for turbulence." "You see," Archon Tsavek's voice rose with something akin to concern. "Even your primitive vessel acknowledges the danger. If your ship is destroyed, the diplomatic repercussions will be severe. The Conclave cannot be held responsible for human recklessness." Translation: if we die, they'll use it as an excuse to further restrict human expansion, Eliza thought bitterly. "Our mission is sanctioned under Article 7 of the Sol Conclave Accords," she replied firmly. "We've acknowledged the risks and accepted full responsibility. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to manage our approach." She signaled for the communication to be cut before any of them could object further. "They're afraid," Dr. Sato observed quietly once the screen had gone dark. Eliza's eyes remained fixed on the dying star ahead. "Yes, but of what? That will fail? Or that will succeed?" "Permission to speak freely, Commander?" asked Lieutenant Rivera from the science station. "Always, Lieutenant." Rivera lowered her voice. "The Conclave's interest in this mission seems disproportionate. 3 observer ships for what they've repeatedly called a futile scientific exercise. Something doesn't add up." "I've had the same thought," Eliza admitted. "Keep analyzing the Conclave transmissions. If they're hiding something about this star, I want to know what it is." "Commander," Arya interrupted, "Dr. Okonkwo requests your presence in the primary observatory. He says it's urgent." Eliza nodded. "XO, you have the bridge. Maintain our approach vector and keep the Conclave representatives appeased. I'll be back shortly." The ship's primary observatory occupied the forward section of the vessel, a reinforced transparent aluminum dome offering an unobstructed view of space. As Eliza entered, she found Dr. Adebayo Okonkwo hunched over a holographic display, his aged face illuminated by the swirling data points. T-78. Okonkwo was the foremost human expert on stellar physics, the pioneer who had first identified the strange behavior of dying hypergiants. When he had insisted on joining this mission despite his age and the risks, no one had dared refuse him. "You wanted to see me, Doctor?" Eliza asked. Okonkwo looked up, his eyes wide with excitement or fear, perhaps both. "Commander, we're detecting something impossible. The star's core is exhibiting quantum fluctuations that violate every model we've established. It's as if something is manipulating the star's decay from the inside." "Manipulating? You mean artificially?" "I don't know what I mean," Okonkwo admitted, running a hand over his gray hair. "But look at these patterns." He gestured, and the hologram expanded to show energy flows within the dying star. Even to Eliza's untrained eye, there was something unnatural about the movement. Too orderly, too structured for a star tearing itself apart. "Stars don't behave like this naturally," Okonkwo continued. "These energy cascades, they're like circuitry, like information processing, but on a stellar scale. You're suggesting VY Canis Majoris is, what? Artificial, not artificial. Augmented." Okonkwo's voice dropped to a near whisper. Commander, I think someone is using the star as a machine, a computer of unimaginable power. And whatever program it's running is killing it faster than it should die. Before Eliza could process this, Arya's voice cut in with uncharacteristic urgency. Commander, Conclave vessels are powering weapons systems and attempting to establish a blockade formation between us and the star. What? Put on screen. The observatory wall lit up with a tactical display. The 3 Conclave ships had indeed broken formation and were now positioning themselves to prevent the Prometheus from advancing further. Incoming transmission from Archon Savek, Arya reported. Let's hear it. The Archon's voice filled the observatory, no longer diplomatic but commanding. UNSS Prometheus, you will reverse course immediately. Your approach has triggered automated Conclave security protocols. This star system is now designated a restricted zone under Conclave Directive 15 Alpha. Eliza exchanged a glance with Archon. Directive 15 Alpha? Arya, what does that refer to? Processing, Arya replied. Directive 15 Alpha appears in Conclave documentation provided during first contact. It concerns procedures for containing potential existential threats to galactic stability. They know. Archon breathed. They've always known there was something unusual about this star. Eliza's mind raced. The Conclave's sudden aggressive stance, the insistence that humans stay away from VY Canis Majoris, the dismissal of human scientific capabilities, it was all making a terrible kind of sense. Arya, open a channel to the Archon. When the connection established, Eliza didn't wait for the Archon to speak first. Your vessels are violating the terms of our joint mission agreement. Archon, power down your weapons immediately. The agreement is void, Savek replied coldly. Your approach has triggered ancient safeguards. Withdraw now, or we will be forced to disable your vessel. Ancient safeguards? Eliza pressed. What aren't you telling us about VY Canis Majoris? Archon, what is it that you're so afraid we'll discover? A moment of silence followed, and when the Archon spoke again, there was a new tone in their voice, something almost like reverence mixed with fear. That star is not what you think it is, Commander Chen. It is a legacy system, one of 7 constructed by the Precursors before they vanished from our galaxy. Your species is too young to comprehend the danger. The Conclave has protected these systems for millennia. We will not allow human interference. The Precursors, the mythical species that had supposedly predated all known galactic civilizations. Most humans considered them little more than a religious myth the Conclave used to justify their authority. If as a legacy system, as you call it, that's degrading, Eliza argued, shouldn't we be trying to understand it? To preserve it? You know nothing of preservation, the Archon hissed. The Conclave maintains the balance. The systems must complete their cycles without interference. That is the first law. Dr. Okonkwo stepped forward suddenly. Archon Savek, the stellar degradation is accelerating beyond predicted parameters. Whatever this legacy system is doing, it's failing. If we don't intervene, the star will collapse within weeks, not centuries as previously calculated. Then it was meant to collapse, the Archon replied with finality. The cycles must not be broken. You have 60 seconds to reverse course before we open fire. The transmission cut off abruptly. Back to the bridge, Eliza ordered, already moving. Arya, alert all hands to battle stations. As they hurried through the corridors, Okonkwo matched her pace despite his age. They're terrified, Commander. Whatever this legacy system is, the Conclave views it with religious significance. Logic won't sway them. Then we need leverage, Eliza replied grimly as they reached the bridge. The situation had deteriorated in her absence. The tactical display showed the Conclave vessels had completed their blockade formation, energy readings indicating weapons charged to maximum capacity. Time to intercept, Eliza asked, sliding into her command chair. 45 seconds, her XO reported. They're not bluffing, Commander. Those are Planet Killer class weapons they're charging. Eliza surveyed her crew, the best minds humanity had to offer, each face showing determination despite the fear. They had come too far to turn back now. Lieutenant Rivera, what do we know about Conclave weapon systems? Rivera didn't hesitate. They use quantum lock targeting. Highly precise, but the lock takes approximately 3 seconds to establish before firing. And our new experimental phase shields, untested against Conclave weapons, Chief Engineer Sato admitted. But theoretically, they should create enough spatial distortion to disrupt their targeting lock for a few seconds. It wasn't much, but might be enough. Arya, plot a course directly through the center of their formation. Maximum acceleration on my mark. Activate phase shields the moment they attempt to establish targeting lock. Commander, her XO cautioned, that's a suicide run. No, Eliza replied, a plan forming. It's a statement of intent. Conclave species value certainty above all else. Let's introduce some human unpredictability. She opened a channel to all 3 Conclave vessels simultaneously. Archon Savek, Overseer and Kim, Ambassador LYR. The UNSS Prometheus will continue its approach to VY Canis Majoris. We believe the star contains crucial information that might help stabilize its decay. If you fire upon us, we will consider it an act of war against humanity. You cannot be serious. Overseer and Kim responded incredulously. You're a single vessel against 3 Conclave warships? This is madness. No, Eliza Counter. This is humanity. We've calculated that our phase shields can disrupt your targeting long enough for us to reach the star's corona. If you destroy us after that point, the resulting gravimetric feedback could trigger a premature supernova. Are you willing to risk that? She was bluffing, of course. The Prometheus would never survive a direct confrontation with Conclave warships. But something Dr. Okonkwo had theorized during the mission planning sessions came back to her. The Conclave's greatest weakness was their inability to accurately assess risk when confronted with unknown variables. Your threats are hollow, the Archon said, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in their voice. Ambassador LYR spoke up. Archon, the human vessel's drive signature has irregular fluctuations consistent with experimental technology. Their shield configuration is not in our database. A primitive attempt at deception. Overseer and Kim dismissed. Perhaps, Ambassador LYR conceded. But what if it is not? The consequences of a miscalculation here would be catastrophic for multiple systems. Eliza pressed her advantage. We don't want conflict, Archon. We want understanding. Let's approach the star. Allow us to study whatever this legacy system is. If the precursors were as advanced as Conclave history suggests, shouldn't we all be trying to preserve their knowledge before it's lost forever? A long silence followed, stretching the tension on the bridge to breaking point. Finally, the Archon responded. You may proceed to your observation position, Commander Chen, but no closer. Our vessels will maintain distance, but will remain armed. If you attempt to breach the star's chromosphere, we will open fire regardless of the consequences. Some knowledge is too dangerous to reclaim. Eliza exhaled slowly. Understood, Archon. Thank you. As the communication ended, the bridge crew visibly relaxed, all except Dr. Okonkwo, who was staring at his data pad with growing concern. What is it, Doctor? Eliza asked. The energy patterns are changing, he replied. It's as if the star knows we're here. The observation station hummed with activity as the Prometheus held position at the agreed-upon distance from VY Canis Majoris. Every scientific instrument aboard was directed at the dying star, collecting data at rates that strained the ship's processing capacity. Dr. Okonkwo stood at the center of it all, coordinating teams of specialists as they attempted to make sense of the readings. Eliza joined him, having left the bridge in her Exos' capable hands. Any progress? She asked quietly. Okonkwo nodded, his expression a mixture of awe and bewilderment. We've confirmed my initial hypothesis. There is an artificial structure embedded within the star, a lattice of exotic matter extending throughout the core and inner layers. It's generating quantum fields that are, well, impossible by our understanding of physics. What's its purpose? It appears to be both a computer and a power source of immense capability, Okonkwo explained. It's using the star's fusion processes to power calculations on a scale we can barely comprehend. The closest analogy would be a Dyson sphere, but turned inward rather than outward. Eliza frowned. But it's killing the star? Yes and no. Okonkwo pulled up a holographic model. The star was already dying. That's natural for a hypergiant of this age. But the legacy system seems to be accelerating certain processes while stabilizing others. It's like it's extracting something specific from the star's death throes. Information? Energy? Both, perhaps. But there's something else. Okonkwo hesitated. The quantum fluctuations we're detecting, they don't just affect local space-time. They extend outward, connecting to something distant. Very distant. Lieutenant Rivera approached, her face pale. Dr. Okonkwo, Commander, we've mapped the quantum connections. They're reaching across the entire galaxy, linking to the other 6 stars the Conclave identified as legacy systems. A network, Eliza breathed. The Precursors built a galactic network using stars as nodes. More than that, Rivera continued, we're detecting data transmission, actual information flowing between the systems. This isn't just infrastructure, it's active. After all this time, Eliza questioned. The Precursors supposedly vanished over 1 million years ago, according to Conclave records. Okonkwo's eyes widened suddenly. Unless they didn't vanish. Commander, what if the Precursors didn't disappear? What if they uploaded themselves into this network? The implication struck Eliza like a physical blow. You're suggesting the Precursors became digital entities? Living within stars. It would explain the Conclave's religious reverence for these systems. Okonkwo reasoned. If they believe the Precursors ascended to some godlike state within the legacy systems, but why is this one dying? Rivera asked. Before anyone could theorize further, Arya's voice broke in. Commander, I am detecting an anomalous signal emanating from the star. It appears to be attempting to establish contact with our systems. Eliza straightened. Contact? Is it the Conclave? Negative. The signal origin is within VY Canis Majoris itself. It is adapting to our communication protocols. The main display flickered, lines of code scrolling faster than human eyes could track. Then, suddenly, it stabilized, forming words in standard Terran English. Identity confirmation REQ-REDSBCES. Human, Terra/SOL system. Status. Unregistered in NETWORKPURPOSE. UNKNOWNRESPUN. The bridge fell silent as everyone stared at the message. It's communicating with us, Okonkwo whispered. The legacy system is actually communicating. Eliza stepped forward. Arya, prepare a response package. Include basic information about humanity, our homeworld, and our scientific objectives. Make it clear we're here peacefully. What about the Conclave? Her XO asked. Should we inform them? Eliza considered this for a moment. Not yet. Let's establish communication first. Arya, monitor Conclave channels. If they detect this exchange, alert me immediately. After Arya had transmitted the information package, there was a pause that seemed to stretch eternally. Then the display changed again. Information process species assessment. Viable technological capacity. Sufficient independent status. Verifita new message followed. I am custodian. 7. This stellar body houses repository gamma critical function failure imminent assistance protocol activated custodian 7. Eliza repeated. Arya, respond. Ask what kind of assistance it requires and what caused the critical failure. Another pause, shorter this time. Then, critical failure cause. Entropy acceleration at work degradation at 71.3% primary objective. Preserve archive contents transfer protocol readi accept. It wants to transfer data to us, Rivera realized. The legacy system is trying to preserve whatever it contains before the star collapses. The Conclave ships are changing formation, the tactical officer reported suddenly. They're moving to surround us. I think they've detected the communication. Eliza made a snap decision. Arya, accept the transfer. Route it to the isolated quantum storage array. Maximum security protocols. Commander, her XO cautioned, we don't know what this data contains. If the Conclave has been protecting these systems for millennia or restricting access to them, Eliza countered. The Conclave has never fully shared their technological advances with humanity. What if this is why? What if they've been gatekeeping Precursor knowledge all along? Before anyone could argue further, the ship shuddered as energy began flowing from the star to the Prometheus. The lights dimmed as power redirected to handle the massive data influx. Incredible, Archon murmured, watching the transfer metrics. The compression algorithms alone are beyond anything we've theorized. The entire Library of Congress would take up less space than a single character in this language. Conclave vessels are powering weapons. Tactical reported tensely. They're hailing us. On screen, Eliza ordered. Archon Tsavek appeared, crystalline facets flashing with what humans had learned to recognize as extreme agitation. What have you done? Our sensors detect a direct interface with the legacy system. You breached the most sacred covenant of the Conclave. The system initiated contact with us. Archon, Eliza replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. It calls itself Custodian 7. It says it's failing and needs to preserve its data. Impossible. Overseer and Kim bellowed from somewhere off-screen. The Custodians do not speak to lesser species. The humans are lying. Ambassador LYR moved into view. Commander Chen, you must terminate this connection immediately. The data within the legacy systems is not meant for us. Eliza finished. For humans specifically? Or for any species outside the Conclave leadership? For any biological intelligence? LYR clarified, seemingly more willing to explain than the others. The Ascended Ones designed the network to remain dormant until the galaxy evolved species capable of true transcendence. The Conclave has protected this plan for generations. And what makes you the arbiters of when that time has come? Eliza challenged. VY Canis Majoris is dying, Ambassador. Custodian 7 has determined that humanity is capable of preserving its data. Shouldn't that be the priority? The Archon pushed forward. You understand nothing. The cycle must proceed as designed. If one node is failing, its contents must be allowed to disperse. That is the way of ascension. Eliza glanced at the data transfer, already at 60% completion. She needed to keep them talking just a little longer. Archon, with respect, your vessel's weapons cannot stop the transfer now without destroying both us and potentially triggering the very stellar collapse you seem to fear. I suggest we all remain calm and discuss this rationally once the transfer is complete. The Archon conferred with someone off-screen, the conversation too quiet to hear. When they turned back, their voice was cold with fury. The Conclave will remember this transgression, Commander Chen. You have violated protocols that have maintained galactic stability for eons. Perhaps it's time for those protocols to evolve, Eliza suggested. Just as humanity has evolved despite the constraints the Conclave has placed on our development. The communication terminated abruptly. Transfer at 83%, Arya reported. Conclave vessels are maintaining weapons lock, but have not fired. They're afraid of damaging the data, Okonkwo suggested. Whatever this archive contains, they value it, even if they don't want us to have it. Eliza nodded, then turned as a new message appeared on the main display. Warning, repository degradation, accelerating custodian functions, compromise transferring priority data. Only what's happening? Eliza demanded. Okonkwo studied the readings. The star's core is becoming unstable. The exotic matter lattice is breaking down faster than anticipated. Can we do anything to stabilize it? Not from this distance, Okonkwo admitted. And I doubt the Conclave would allow us to approach closer. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Alarms blared as system after system reported strain. Hull integrity compromised on decks 3 through 7, Arya announced. Gravitational shear exceeding safe parameters. Commander, we need to increase our distance from the star immediately. Not until the transfer completes, Eliza insisted. Transfer at 92%, Rivera reported, clinging to her console as the ship bucked beneath them. On the tactical display. The Conclave vessels were already retreating to safer distances, apparently unwilling to risk their own destruction. Commander, her XO urged, we need to withdraw. The structural integrity field won't hold much longer. Eliza watched the transfer progress. 95%. 96%. Just a little longer. The viewports filled with crimson light as VY Canis Majoris began to convulse. Massive solar flares reaching out like grasping fingers. One such prominence extended toward the Prometheus, a wall of plasma that would incinerate the ship instantly. Brace for impact, Eliza shouted, but just before the flare would have engulfed them, it curved away, as if deflected by an invisible shield. The transfer completes a figured protocol-activated farewell. Humans of Terra, may you succeed, where a message flashed once on the screen, then disappeared as all systems momentarily went dark. When emergency power activated seconds later, the tactical display showed the Conclave vessels regrouping at a safe distance. Status report, Eliza demanded. Multiple systems offline, her XO replied grimly. Gravity drive is non-functional. Life support at 60% capacity. But the quantum storage array is intact. Transfer completed successfully. Eliza turned to the viewports, where VY Canis Majoris continued its violent convulsions. Arya, maximum reverse thrust on conventional engines. Get us as far from the star as possible. As the Prometheus limped away, Dr. Okonkwo approached Eliza, his expression solemn yet excited. Commander, I've begun preliminary analysis of the data we received. It's beyond anything we could have imagined. What does it contain? Everything, Okonkwo breathed. Physics models that unify quantum mechanics and relativity. Engineering schematics for technology thousands of years beyond our current capabilities. Biological data on species that must have gone extinct millions of years ago. And the precursors themselves? What were they? Okonkwo hesitated. For what I can tell so far, they weren't a single species. The term precursors seems to refer to a coalition of civilizations that flourished billions of years ago. They created the legacy network as a repository of their combined knowledge, but also as a warning. A warning about what? Before Okonkwo could answer, Arya interrupted. Commander, I've detected something in the transferred data. A message embedded within the primary archive, specifically encoded for human neural patterns. Display it, Eliza ordered. The screen filled with text once more. To the inheritors. We, the stewardship collective once known as the Precursors, created this network as our final act before transcendence. Within these archives lies the sum of our knowledge, our art, our history, and our greatest failure. The universe is dying. Not merely in the slow heat death predicted by elementary physics, but in an accelerated entropic cascade triggered by our own attempts at transcendence. In seeking to evolve beyond physical form, we ruptured the quantum foundation of reality itself. The legacy network was our attempt at atonement. 7 repositories, containing 7 keys to potentially reverse the damage. But we could not implement the solution ourselves. Our very nature as post-physical entities contributes to the universe's decay.